Welcome to Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio, Sirius XM 147 and the Cowboy Channel from our studio here in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Amy Wilson. Coming up today, our guests include Tilden Hooper, who is a professional bareback rider and is qualified now for his 6th National Finals Rodeo. He recently won Pendleton, and later we'll be joined by Casey Field, 4-time world champion bareback rider. He'll talk all about getting ready for this year's finals. And then later we'll be joined by world champion tie-down roper Shane Hanchey. He's getting ready for his 11th annual invitational roping. He'll give us all the details, and that's all coming up on today's Western Sports Roundup. I'm also joined in studio by the one and only Steve Kenyon. He's back.
Well,
welcome back, Steve.
Thank you, and it's nice of you to say that, and it's nice to be back and have a chance to tell the stories of professional rodeo. You just talked about Tilden Hooper, you just talked about Casey Field, you just talked about Shane Hanchey. There's so many good stories out there right now, and so many things happening as we get ready for the Wrangler NFR, the American, Rodeo New York, the new contract with the PRCA and the Cowboy Channel. I'm looking forward to it. This is an exciting time in professional rodeo.
It really is an exciting time. And as we talk about some of the news and highlights, we first want to highlight Ty Harris. We want to show you a couple different angles of a run that he made up in Canada, 6.7 seconds. They say it's the fastest run at a Canadian Professional Rodeo Association rodeo this year. And Ty was riding a borrowed horse because he went up there to Hannah, Alberta, their indoor pro rodeo. It was on September 29th. Of course, he won the rodeo with this run. And Ty is 10th in the PRCA world standings. He's the current rookie of the year, and of course, a dream come true to qualify for his first NFR.
During the American semifinals back in February, Joe Beaver and I had a chance to do some work together, and Joe and I talked about what happens in a tie-down roping run and all the things that can go right and all the things that go wrong. There was nothing went wrong with that run. That was flawless. I mean, that was as smooth, as perfect, as easy as it gets. Congratulations to Ty Harris, 6'7", one of the many young guns that are headed to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. Tie-down roping's got as many first-timers and as many really talented. I think there's a changing of the guard going on in the tie-down roping right now with all these young guys that are doing so well right now.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned the first timers, and we've talked to one of them earlier in the week, Haven Medjid, and he talked about some of the highlight runs that he's had, and as you mentioned, just flawless in that timing right there. And he's riding a horse that he trained. Ty gives a lot of credit to the owners of the horses that he rides, and as you mentioned, a lot of fun to watch these guys. I can't wait to see him in the bright lights of Vegas.
I can't wait to see him either. You look at Haven. Haven's got an interesting opportunity this year. He wins a college title, the Ram National Circuit Finals title, PRCA's Tour finale in Puyallup, and now he heads to Las Vegas and the Wrangler NFR. Second, the world standings, only $12,000 behind the world standings leader, Caleb Smith. This is going to be real interesting.
It is. You mentioned that young talent, Shad Mayfield, the current national high school rodeo champion. We've talked about him as well. We have lots of great stuff coming up today on Western Sports Roundup. I'm Amy Wilson along with Steve Kenyon. Thanks for listening to Rural Radio, Sirius XM 147 and watching on the Cowboy Channel. Welcome back to Western Sports Roundup on Sirius XM Channel 147 Rural Radio and also on the Cowboy Channel from right here in our studio in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Amy Wilson along with Steve Kenyon, and we are joined today by bareback rider Tilden Hooper. Tilden, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is exciting.
Number 4 in the world. You're headed to your 6th NFR. Okay. Take 2. What'd I do wrong? I said Rural Radio wrong. Ed always gets on me about that. Rural Radio series. Welcome back to Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio Sirius XM 147 and the Cowboy Channel from right here in our Cowboy Channel studio in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Amy Wilson along with Steve Kenyon, and today we are joined by Tilden Hooper, bareback rider number 4 in the world right now. Tilden, thanks for being here.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So you are headed to your 6th NFR. You've had a great year. You started off winning the RNCFR, so a national championship there. You won the Texas Circuit Finals. You recently won Pendleton. It's been a pretty phenomenal year for you.
Yeah, no doubt. I've been extremely blessed this year. This has been my most successful year so far, and I'm super excited to get to Vegas and go out there and compete. But man, it was a lot of cool things happened this year, you know, with the RNCFR, like you said, and winning Pendleton the other day. That was just bucket list, you know, like that was one of the coolest wins of my career. That was awesome.
Steve, when we saw Tilden when we first walked in the studio, he already has that Pendleton buckle on, and we asked him how long it took for him to get that thing strapped on.
And your story was you tried to hang on to, you tried to have it on before you ever left the arena.
Yeah, I did. They give you a huge amount of stuff there, like for winning, saddles, blankets, coolers, just all sorts of stuff, and they give it all out on the track there, and you got to take a bunch of pictures, or you get to take a bunch of pictures. And I got the buckle, and I was just hanging on to that. So I went to go get back on the horse and ride back across there, and they're like, "Hey, we'll take and put that with the secretary." And I was like, "I'll keep this with me." And they're like, "Well, no, we got to take some more." I was like, "I'll just keep it." And they're like, took it from me. Anyway, I saw Colt Gordon right after that, and he had his, so I don't know if he just ran off with it or what. But as soon as I got it out of the secretary's office, I strapped it on pretty immediately.
What was that victory lap like? On Saturday, for folks who don't know, Saturday in Pendleton, there's 17,000 people. There's more people in the grandstands than live in the town. And that victory lap has got to be the most amazing experience.
It really was. It was kind of stressful for me. I didn't grow up riding horses, and so the victory lap's usually, you know, the sketchiest part of my ride sometimes. And I was standing out there and kind of realized what, you know, that after the last guy win, after Clint's horse kind of took off out across there, I thought, you know, I'd probably going to win. And I looked at Bob Marriott, one of the pickup men, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "Uh-oh," I was like, "I'm gonna have to make the dang victory lap." And he just started laughing, and he was like, "Yep." And I saw him putting that bareback saddle on one of my horses over there. He said, "He's gonna buck for sure, I guarantee."
Well, I'll be honest, when I saw you making that lap, I thought, wow, Tilden's riding a saddle horse pretty good, because there are a lot of you guys that you're bareback riders. You didn't grow up on saddle horses, and then that horse ducked out the outgate, and you thought you did a good job staying on.
Yeah, I did. I didn't hit the ground. I made my mind up before I got on. I wasn't going to hit the ground out there. But, you know, being a good horseman is something that I aspire to be one day. I'm not quite there yet, though, but maybe one day.
And you're working on it, and Casey Field is helping you. We'll actually talk to Casey coming up. We do want to take a look at some of the footage from Pendleton and the rides that you made. So as we do that, kind of take us through what it was like.
That's a horse of Calgary's called Zulu Warrior. That's the one they've been winning on all summer. Tim had won Ellensburg on her. Right there, she kind of steps forward and gets my upper body moving a little more than I want. But man, that was a fun horse. And just, if you can get them to, you know, stack up underneath themselves like that before you get to the grass, that's really good there. Is this my long round ride? Or is that the one? That's still the short round, I think.
Yeah, I think a different angle.
Yeah. No, that's a cool horse, man. Calgary Stampede, they've been raising great bucking horses ever since I've been around, way longer than that. But just in my career, it's been cool to get to see all the horses and stuff that they bring. And every year they bring a bunch of new ones, and they're always good. And that one Zulu Warrior that I had in the short round isn't really young, but he's a younger horse. And the one that I won, that I didn't win the long round on, the one that I had in the long round was an A number. And so he was real young, and that horse was a handful. I was pretty proud of my ride in the long round. That was kind of a fight.
Calgary's horses, they're always big. Or he's got big, wide backs.
They're built just the way you would imagine a bucking horse being built, and that even just the way your rigging fits on them and everything. It's just, man, it's awesome. Those are my favorite kind of horses to get on. You know, like there's been a bunch of great horses out there, you know, that are smaller and not taking anything away from those horses. But when they're big and beefy and they run in there like that, and you get on them and stuff, and they all go back to Graded Coconut. And if you were around long enough to ride and had the chance to get on him, he was just the coolest horse. And you can see all these offspring and see the little similarities they have to the stud. You know what I mean? And whether it's just crashing the gate out of there, like just, I mean, they all kind of have, he marks them, and it's cool. It's cool to see.
I remember seeing them right after Graded Coconut and buck. They put a halter and led him to a trailer. You know, it was really cool to see a horse like that. You mentioned how they were branded with numbers. Explain that system.
So I don't know the exacts of it, but the letter at the beginning of the number, say it's A6 is the horse's brand. The letter coincides with what year they were born, and I don't know what the years are to the letters
Each stock
and
contractor
stuff.
probably has their own system.
Right,
they
a
do.
different branding system, and that's the way they do theirs. So you know that whole set of A horses are all the same age. You know how old they are, or
Right.
whatever, and it's a cool way to do it. I guess.
So next year's Calgary Colts, the newest horses will all have a B,
I think so,
in front of their names.
Which is cool too, because Grady Coconut was a G, obviously, but his mother, Coconut Roll, was a C. So, and she was still around, still bucking. I had the chance to get on her once,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be cool to come back around full circle and have some C colts. Hopefully, I'll last long enough.
Let's take a look at some of your other rides from this summer. Cheyenne Frontier Days. We talk about Pendleton. There's a group of rodeos everybody wants to win. Pendleton's one, Cheyenne's another one.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. That's bucket list deal, just the same as Pendleton. And I came back and I thought I had a chance possibly to win Cheyenne this year, and I was really excited. That was a horse that's been around for quite a while. That horse is called Hard Times. That's a Southwick horse. I think Steve Loggins might have raised that horse, and man, she's fun. Like that, changing direction and backing up underneath you, that's a lot of fun. And then in the short round, I had a horse, Stay Smith's, named Miss Dunny. She's been around forever, and she's just one of my favorite horses, so I was pretty excited.
As we talk about great rides, here's another you can take us through.
Yeah, that was a great fight. I was glad to get the score I did that day, and I was glad they recognized the difficulty factor, because that definitely wasn't the prettiest ride I've ever made. But I promise you, when I got off, I knew I'd been in a fight and I'd won it, and I was just as excited about that as I was the day I rode Miss Dunny. Bareback riding's a physical event, so when you get on one and you're getting hit and you're hitting them and you get off and you know you won the fight, that's really my favorite feeling anyway. So that was cool.
Yeah, that ride was a great example of how physical your event really is. We also want to take a look at some footage from RFD TV's The American. I interviewed you after the 8-man. You were so excited with your draw and about that day. Tell us about the whole experience.
That was exciting, and then that horse right there, Spilled Perfume, that's one of the rankest horses going right now. And so same thing as the horse I was just talking about. That maybe is not my prettiest ride, that you don't get a lot of time to show off on horses like that, but I knew that was rank and I knew I'd won the fight, so I was really excited about that. And then by the time I got over there to you told me I had Virgil, and I wasn't counting my money before I got it, but man, I dreamed the night before I was going to have it and win it on him, and then I got him, and things were lining up, and that was exciting. And end of the day, I just got beat. I'd been on him once before and had a lot better ride on him, and he just didn't seem as hard, but I didn't get as good a start on him, and it was just a fight the whole time, and I was kind of pulled, and on a rank horse like that, you got to get ahead of him the first jump. And then Orrin Larson just killed it that day on a great horse of Pickett's, and didn't end up winning it, but still ended up with a pretty good check. So.
Yeah, won the 8 round, split the 8 round, and then ended up third overall. So that was a lot of money. The thing about the American to me is every year, I've watched that rodeo every year, and it's a great pen of horses every year. And I know that's the time that you guys really start to crave it.
Yeah, absolutely. During the winter, it's cool because all those horses are down here for these big winter rodeos for Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth. And so they get them all and bring them to the American. And to me, as a bareback rider, and I know all the other guys feel the same way, is when you get those rank horses in there and the very best horses, that's when the top guys are going to shine. That's whenever you're going to separate out the guys, and I've been separated on that cut before too. I'm definitely not trying to say I'm better than anyone else, but end of the day, like when you run those rank horses in there, the guys that are supposed to win.
You talk about top guys. You mentioned, Orrin Larson and the great year he's had. I think he's maybe had the best year of his rodeo career. Obviously, you've had the best year, I think, of your rodeo career. We talk about the world standings in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and who's winning and who's done well. This has been, take a look at that. Clayton Bigelow, 181,000. Casey Field, 176,000. Orrin's third. There's a little drop off, but you're right there, number 4. Richie's number 5. Bareback riders won a lot of money this year, and this is going to be I think this is going to be a real battle at the NFR.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. That's as stout a group of guys as I've rode against. you can't ever take anything away from the guys that came before us. There's so many great bareback riders, but that group right there, it's going to be a gunfight at the NFR, and I'm excited to be a part of it. You know, it's a testament to the group of guys. Like the guys have gotten better because they've had to, because, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 other guys pushed the rest of us. And at the end of the day, if you're going to win money out there, you got to do it at a high level, and so it's going to be fun to watch.
Casey obviously has the benefit of winning Houston, which is a big check right there. Tim, of that 100 and whatever it is, $13,000, most of it came from June until now.
I think all but about 6 or 8,000 of it. And I'll say this right here on TV: Tim came to Fort Worth and got on some practice horses before he left to go to Reno. And not that I doubted him, but I mean, to have things go that way, you have to do things exactly right, and you got to capitalize on every opportunity you get. And Tim put his name in the hat at every rodeo there was, from Reno till even this last weekend. And I've had to do that before, and I've had it work out, and I've had it not work out. And I just wouldn't have predicted that it would win as well for Tim. That's a tough injury to come back from, and that's a huge accomplishment what he did. Well, I don't think a lot of people understand the miles he put in, the rodeos he went to that he probably thought he may not ever go back to again, because, you know, you're 3-time world champion, you're only going to these biggest rodeos, but when the time came and he had to do it, he went and done it, and hats off to Tim. That was cool.
Yeah, we're about out of time in this segment, but I did want to mention, you mentioned the big payouts at Houston and at the American, the difference that made in the standings. And then guys like you know, you're up against where they just had that lump sum of 50,000, one rodeo, you know, rodeoing to catch up to some of those guys. But then also the really severe injuries that some of the top bareback riders have suffered this year. You mentioned Tim, Casey, and you know all about that because of your list of injuries. So kind of some unique perspectives in the bareback riding this year.
Absolutely. It's every guy has their own personal storyline, and there's not one single guy that isn't dealing with something probably, and so it'll be cool to watch, no doubt.
For sure. Well, when we come back, we'll not only be joined by Tilden Hooper, but also Casey Field. It's all coming up next on Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio Sirius XM 147, and also right here on the Cowboy Channel. Thanks for joining us on Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio Sirius XM 147 and also the Cowboy Channel from our studio in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Amy Wilson along with Steve Kenyon. We're joined today by bareback rider Tilden Hooper, who is headed to his 6th NFR, right alongside one of his great buddies, Casey Field, who happens to be a 4-time world champion. You guys have a lot of fun together, so we want to bring him in on this conversation. Casey Field, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Western Sports Roundup.
You betcha. Sorry you have the visitor today. I wish it was just us, but I guess we'll have to work through it.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm glad you got me here in person and him just on the phone.
Yeah.
He's definitely got a face for radio.
Yeah, well, Tilden, you live really close, so it is good to have you here. But we want to talk about this year and what it's been like for you guys and the friendship that you guys have. Tilden, go ahead.
Man, this year's been awesome. It's been fun. We've been, kind of neck and neck most of the year, and so that's been fun. We've got to travel together a lot this year. It's been real fun that Casey was hurt a lot of the year and I didn't have to travel with him. But
you also mentioned how lucky he got at Houston.
Yeah, he got lucky and beat me there. He got lucky and beat me a lot of places. as you can look at the standings.
Casey, I have a question. What is the approximate length of time that you and Tilden can have a conversation between the time that one of you takes a shot at the other one? I mean, what a minute, 45 seconds, 15, what do you think?
It usually takes me about 6 or 7 minutes. It hits about 30 seconds for him to get me a jab or something.
Yeah, I like to fire
one
one straight out of the gate.
Come back with.
Casey,
believe it or not, he's pretty dang witty. I can't keep up half the time.
Yeah, we've noticed. I mean, I get the biggest kick out of both of you guys, and I know that you're great friends way down deep inside, and I'm sure that probably, back in when you got kicked in the head in March and ended up on the injured list for a while, I'll bet you I know who the very first person was at your side.
It actually wasn't.
Yeah,
it was Sid
there.
Steiner. I wasn't. I should have been there, but I wasn't, and I left him alone for one afternoon, and he went and pulled that shit.
No, I know Tilden was concerned about me, but Tilden, I was in good hands. He knew that with a good friend of ours, Sid Steiner and Rocker. Sid rode in the ambulance with me. I was in ICU for a few days, and he never once left this little tiny couch.
I'll be darned.
It was pretty awesome to see. Sid, he really has a good heart. It's amazing to see that. And it's just, Sid's just an example for lots of other people, that the cowboy world and the way that, me and Tilden travel partners, there's a lot of friendships like that in the sport that would do anything for each other. And it's just kind of the Western way.
Casey, with that being said, I want to talk a lot about your friendship with those guys and kind of direct this conversation into the next generation of bareback riders, because I know you and Tilden have been very instrumental in helping Rocker, and he showcased what a talent he is at Cheyenne. But I think it's important for you guys to give your opinion on what the next generation needs to do to really set themselves up for success, and whether it be parents or producers or whatever, I think this could be very beneficial. So, Casey, I'll let you start by talking about that.
Yeah, for sure. From a young age, me and Tilden had the exact same goals and in life and in the rodeo arena. And the way that Tilden coaches people along, I noticed, is exactly how I coach. And, the discipline that we were raised with kind of shows in our coaching. And so me and Tilden do really well together when we're coaching. And so we've seen that Sid got a hold of us, and Rocker wanted to be a bareback rider. And so the way that I was taught was totally different than the way that Tilden was taught how to ride bareback horses. And so my resume compared to Tilden is the way we went with to coach Rocker. And it's been a lot of fun. Tilden speaks to those kids maybe a little bit better than I do. I don't know if I'm a little more to the point, where Tilden has a different way to deliver it, that the kids understand it a lot more. And so the things that the clinics that we've been a part of, or the rodeo schools that we've been part of, we teach them a lot about bareback riding, but at the same time we teach them, how to respect one another, your peers, sportsmanship. That's kind of what I like to coach, bareback riding. I love bucking horses and watching kids prevail and get better all the time, but when you see a kid change and grow up and become a man, it's a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding to me and Tilden. And that's kind of what happened with Rocker. We seen him as a young, little, tiny boy, and got on the right horses. We were there to help him, and then seems like a year went around, and he went from just doing okay to now he's spurring them hard and using the correct form, has power with his feet, and along with getting better at bareback riding, he's turned into a young man, and a very respectful young man, and it's been fun to watch. And I'm not saying that his dad didn't have anything to do with it, but me and Tilden had most of it to do with it.
Well, I want to.
I hope Sid and Jamie are watching this.
That's one thing I like about Casey, is he always gives credit where it's due.
Right. Well, Casey, I know we're really limited on time with you, so I would love for you to go more in depth as far as you said, getting on the right horses. Just giving your opinion or your advice, I guess, for young bareback riders who want to get started. What does that look like for them? What are some things they should do or maybe even shouldn't do?
I wouldn't do it in a big hurry. Me and Tilden, we talk a lot about this, how to keep these kids confident when they start riding barebacks. It's a grueling event. It's hard on your body, and young kids that haven't been on a lot, if they get a bump or a bruise, they might think it's a broke arm. But so if you bring them up the right way and put them on the right horses, which it's hard to do this day and age. There's not a lot of opportunity for kids to go and get on bareback horses. Me and Tilden, we talk about giving kids more opportunities all the time, and we're trying to get a band of mares together that are just perfect for kids to get on. Maybe we could get a few colts out of and continue this, and more or less not have a rodeo school, but we want to have a camp. We want to handpick a few kids and bring them out for more than just 2 days and just get on as many as you can. We want to go through the basics of travel, riding bucking horses, how to enter business, money. That's one thing too that's hard with these young kids. Yeah. If they've got talent, they go out there and win a bunch of money when they're 18, 19 years old, and then they lose that edge, and then they don't know how to handle that much money in that short amount of time, and they got to go get a real job and their careers are over. So the things that me and Tilden talk about, the right horses in the right environment, it all plays into the role, the big picture. And it's way fun to watch Tilden. You know, he's with Rocker a lot, and watch how he coaches them and motivates them. It's not just, if you're a bareback rider and you showed up and you were listening to Tilden talk, you wouldn't just walk away a better bareback rider. You would walk away with a smile on your face and impressed, and you know, you're going to walk away from that conversation with a smile on your face and ready to impact other people's lives in a positive way.
Wow.
That was very
Dang,
sweet.
That was really
Some
nice.
days, some days,
Yeah.
some days.
You know, Casey, you're the very first bareback rider I think I ever talked to, and I'm not saying that you're the first one that ever discussed this as a bareback rider, but because I know your dad and some of the others who came before you, but you're the first bareback rider I ever heard talk to about horsemanship in the bareback riding, and that's something that I think you're passing on to these kids that you're dealing with.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question to me rather than Tilden. But I'll say this, Tilden is getting better. But, you know, horsemanship, you've got to learn to, you know, feel that horse's nerves in the chute. You can tell if one's scared or if he's excited. You need to be able to read that. You need to be able to read when your rigging's hitting the ground, when his front feet are coming up off the ground, what lead he's in. It leads into, you know, to make a perfect ride, you need to have the knowledge of all that and what it feels like. And, you know, that the bronc riders like Court Shear, that guy, I mean, he's impressive as a bronc rider, and a lot of that comes from because he goes home and he's horseback, and he feels them horses underneath him. So when he gets to the rodeo, they're just getting little hires all to him, and he gets to look a little cooler
Yeah.
in front of more people. That's about it.
I will say
know,
this,
it-
at not coming from a background of riding horses and stuff, that was a big part of learning to ride, and a big thing that held me up is I wasn't comfortable around horses. You know, I didn't really know what I was doing, and just over my career and just, you know, traveling with Casey, listening to these things and learning some different stuff, the more my horsemanship has improved, the more my riding has improved. So I do definitely think it's very important, and I can't believe he was actually right about that, but I think he is.
Well, Casey,
Tilden actually has a video that will be coming out on social media that
oh, good.
kind of highlights his riding skills. That is freaking awesome. You
Yeah,
guys are
it
gonna
is.
die.
It just goes to show if you get a good cameraman, you can make it look like you know how to do
Yeah,
anything.
exactly.
Well, Casey, I know you have some other commitments that you have to get to, so we really appreciate your time. While you've been talking, we've been watching some footage of some of your rides, including those at the American, and we can't wait to watch you make 10 out there in Vegas. Thank you so much for being on today,
Or
and
9.
congratulations on a great year.
Well, thank you very much. It was good to talk to both you, Amy and Steve. Have a great day, Tilden.
Yeah,
Just be safe, bud.
you too. Do what's right.
Adios.
Thanks,
right.
Casey.
Again, our thanks to the four-time world champion, Casey Field. I'm Amy Wilson, along with Steve Kenyon. We're joined today by Tilden Hooper here in the Cowboy Channel studio, and we'll be back with more on Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio, Sirius XM 147, and also on the Cowboy Channel. Thanks for joining us on Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio, Sirius XM 147, and also on the Cowboy Channel from here in our studio in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Amy Wilson, along with Steve Kenyon, and we're joined today in studio by Tilden Hooper, bareback rider. You are number 4 in the world, headed to your 6th NFR. We just talked to Casey Field, had a lot of fun with that. We want to continue having fun with you. I mentioned going down the list of bareback riders because when I interviewed you at the NFR, you were talking about Caleb Bennett, and you said, yeah, the one with pretty teeth. Steve's trying to decide if you or Court has better hair. So there's a lot of different discussion going on. Take us down the list of the top 15 bareback riders or whoever you want and some of the best qualities, maybe, you know, best dress, best whatever.
Prettiest teeth, Caleb Bennett, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Got that.
I would say lankiest legs, Oren Larson. Looks the most like a 12-year-old girl, probably Clayton Bigelow.
I knew you were going to say that as soon as you started that one.
Oh man, the most Canadian is Clint Lay, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Ty Brewer, in the running for nicest guy in the PRCA, Jake Brown, best at praying. He prays every night before we go out there in the locker room, and it's always good. It'll get you fired up. He does the best prayer. Stephen Dent, best people skills. Austin Foss, like I shouldn't say this, but I don't have a prepper plan, like if something goes bad, other than I'm just going to Austin's house.
There you go.
And Tanner Ross, super guy, really funny. Trenton Montero, best cowboy hat, probably. Oh man, I love Trenton. I'm so glad he made it this year.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy. He's a bareback rider, and he grinded it out, and he's in there, and I'm proud of him. That's cool. Easily talks the most, Tay Broussard.
Really?
Proud of him too. That's cool that he was able to get it done that last day out in San Bernardino. That's good. He's been to a lot of rodeos this year, and I know that's tough. What do we got there? Casey Field, hairiest cowboy in the PRCA probably. And Richmond champion will be buying my dinner at the bareback dinner due to a little bet we made in Ellensburg over who went in 4th and who went in 5th.
Richie told me about
Really?
that in Stephenville. He said, yeah, if you ever talk to Tilden, you ought to ask him about who's buying the steak at the NFR.
The
I
race
said,
for the golden steak. No
Yeah.
one knew about that, but it was one of the most heated races going on in the last
Yeah.
part of the
With
year.
that being said, what cut do you like the best and how is it cooked?
I don't even know if I'm going to get steak. I've been
Oh.
Googling the most expensive restaurant in Las Vegas. I don't know that steak's the most expensive, but ribeye probably.
Gotcha, that's great.
well, you know, Richie did win $1 million once upon a time, so.
Yeah, that's what my dad told me whenever I told him that I won the bet. He said, well, tell him to bring that $1 million. You're going to bring your mom and dad too.
Well, shoot, Steve and I'll join you
Yeah,
too. then.
Yeah, everyone's invited on Richie.
Oh, that's great.
We just talked to Casey, and we talked a lot about developing young bareback riders. And I asked you a question during the break, which is because I don't think it's a secret that the bareback riding numbers have been down a little bit. And the question I asked you is, are there some talented young people coming up? Your answer was yeah. The schools are filling, which leads us to something I know Amy wants to talk with you about. But the schools are filling up a little bit. Are we going to see another wave of bareback riders? A little elevation in those numbers?
Man, I sure hope so, and I sure think so. I think that there's so much money in rodeo right now. It's a
Yeah.
great time to be a professional rodeo cowboy, and
And it's only going to grow.
and it's only growing, right? And so as a young guy, I think used to when I was young, you look at this and you're like, man, that's awesome. I want to go out there and be a rodeo cowboy, But you always have people telling you, it's not a real good way to make a living. You know what I mean? You'll never be able to just do that.
Right.
You're always going to have something different. And anyway, I've been fortunate enough that I haven't had to have a lot of stuff different. And I know, that's been with a career where I've, set out for years at a time and had injuries and different stuff. And so, even in my career, there's been enough money, that a guy could support himself doing this. And that's just growing more and more. And obviously, I think the bareback riding is the coolest event. And I think usually when those kids try it, they're hooked, and they like it. But I think it's really important how we develop them as to how long they'll be in this game.
What's the biggest challenge for developing young bareback riders? Is it age-appropriate livestock? Is it developing, the right techniques? You made a comment when we were on the phone with Casey that, you kind of maybe there's some things you could have learned differently as you were first starting out. What's the biggest challenge to developing these kids?
I think too. Just like Casey said, take your time. Like this doesn't happen overnight, right? It's been fun to watch Rocker and how fast he's progressed and stuff, but that's not normal. He's special. You know what I mean? And yeah, I didn't progress that fast. Casey didn't progress that fast. One of the things that I got all the proper instruction from my dad. Squeeze on your handle, set your feet, drive your shoulders back. You know what I mean? But the place where I had to practice that were usually on colts that guys were trying out,
Right.
and which is fine. There's a place for that too. Guys don't need to be scared to get on young horses because young horses are a lot of times just like young riders. They're just kind of figuring out what they're doing. They don't have as much power, and it's not bad to learn on young horses. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like the guys raising the horses and the stock contractors, and I'll say this, a lot, like Stay Smith feeds horses all year long that he never uses at rodeos that we just use at our rodeo school on the Thanksgiving deal. And that's something that if we want guys to last and we want them to actually learn how to ride, it's more skill appropriate horses, I would say, than age appropriate. Because I mean, just like in any event, you're going to get your 16, 15-year-old kids, 17-year-old kids that just get it faster than everyone else. And if you're 20 and you still don't got it, that's fine. I mean, I guarantee you this is a sport and the bareback riding is an event that if you give it your all, if you put your heart into it and you try your hardest every time and you go and get the proper instruction and I think going to a good school where someone tells you the right way to do this, and nothing against your Uncle Joe or your cousin Bob that used to ride, you know what I mean, but go somewhere where the guys that are winning now can tell you how they're doing it. And that's what I did. I went to a rodeo school at Stay Smith. It was one of the first years they put it on. Terry Williams, this PBR stock contractor, guys raised bucking bulls forever, called me in his office one day and he was like, Teely Joe, if you want to learn how to ride barebacks, this is where you need to go. And I was like, well, it's $400. I don't really have it. And he's like, well, if you don't have it by the time the school starts, you know, I'll match it, which he knew my parents would pay for it too. But anyway, I ended up getting the money. I went there and I mean, they were the hottest guys in the world at that time, and I saw that energy they had with each other, and it really influenced my career. You know, Wes, Will, Tom, those guys, they knew they were the very best guys in the world, and they got in the van, got in the truck, and they went to every rodeo with that attitude. And that's something that I've been fortunate to find in a traveling partner, you know, is that same attitude, and it's helped with my career immensely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been told what a big difference that makes, who you travel with and surround yourself with. And it's obvious just the energy that you and Casey have and how much fun you have at it. You know, obviously you're very dedicated and focused, but you have a lot of fun. You mentioned the rodeo schools and clinics. There's one coming up called Rodeo Elevate School, and all the proceeds are going to help Wade Sundell. You're a part of that, and you said you think it filled up right away, which doesn't surprise me at all. A lot of really great guys helping with that. That's one that you have coming up. Any others you want to mention for kids out there looking to go to a school?
We've got that school, and then we do a school every year at Stay Smith the weekend after Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving Rodeo School I think it's ThanksgivingRodeoSchool.com or .org. We've got Instagram, Facebook. All the proceeds are donated to the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund, which is something near and dear to my heart and everyone else's. I've used it, and it's super thankful that it wasn't even an option to use. But that's what's cool about the rodeo community. I mean, Wade fell on some bad luck, and Wade's a tough guy, and he's going to be fine. But at the end of the day, tough guys that are going to be fine need help too. And that rodeo school was put together overnight, as far as I know. Tim O'Connell called me, asked me if I'd like to be a part of it. I was so thankful that I can be a part of it. You've got some of the very, very best guys in the world going to be there teaching you, and that's exactly what I was talking about with Steve. Like, go somewhere where the guys that are winning now can tell you how to win now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of Wade, I wanted to mention too that all the proceeds from anything sold on DaleBrisby.com today, Wednesday, go to help Wade Sundell. So
Yeah,
if
Bill
anyone's-
Brisby's a great guy. That's not the first time he's done that for someone, and that's way cool. And I appreciate it. I'm sure Wade does too.
Yeah, so a lot of different ways you can help out Wade, and also the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund. Two really great opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rodeo's
Awesome
tough, and
opportunities.
it sometimes has bad things happen, whatever. But that's what's so cool about rodeo is the family and the support group. You might have a bad thing happen, but it's never going to be the worst thing, and it's never going to be the last thing. There's always someone there in rodeo to help you and pick you up and dust you off, and that's cool. It's special, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Sheldon, we're about done with, but before we let you go, just give me a 10 or 15 second answer. Between now and December the 5th, are you going to get on a lot of practice horses? Are you going to enter some rodeos? Are you going to just stay in the gym? What are you going to do?
I'm not going to probably enter any rodeos that I can think of. I will get on some practice horses, and I'll just be in the gym, just trying to get my body ready to go out there and get through 10 rounds and win every one of them.
Good luck. I hope it happens. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Again, our thanks to Tilden Hooper for being here on the show. I know you're looking forward to getting on Tin Head at the NFR, but maybe even more so looking forward to the dinner that Richie Champion is going to buy you there in Vegas.
Yeah, heck
we can't
yeah.
wait to find out what the most expensive dinner in Vegas
I
is.
can't
so.
wait either. This is
I want,
exciting.
we need a full report.
I actually planned the bareback dinner, and I was going to go to In-N-Out if I lost, but I guess now we're going to get to go somewhere good.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, thank you, Tilden. Good luck to you.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Number 4 in the world, headed to his 6th NFR, Tilden Hooper. I'm Amy Wilson, along with Steve Kenyon. Thanking you for watching Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio and also on the Cowboy Channel. We'll be back with Shane Hanchey coming up next. Welcome back to Western Sports Roundup on Rural Radio, Sirius XM 147, and also the Cowboy Channel from our studio here in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Amy Wilson, along with Steve Kenyon, and we get the chance now to talk to a world champion tie-down roper. He just qualified for his 10th NFR, and he has a roping coming up. I'm talking about Shane Hanchey, and he joins us now. Shane, thank you so much for being on. I think you're joining us via Skype. There you are.
Hey, Shane.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. Yeah. How's it going?
Good. How are you? So, Amy started by talking about your 10th trip to the National Finals Rodeo coming up. Tell me about 2019. How'd it go for you?
2019 was it was a good year overall. For my expectation, wasn't quite what I was hoping for. I had a big win at San Antonio early in the year, and that's a win that I've been looking forward to my whole career, and to get that buckle sure means a lot to me. And then it seemed like after San Antonio, I won pretty good, in the winter, and had a good winter in my spring. I took the spring off, and the summer was just hit and miss. I couldn't ever really get nothing going. The Northwest kind of was the same way, but anytime you win over 100,000 in the regular season and have a chance for another gold buckle, it's a pretty good year.
5th in the world, just for the record. Caleb Smith's number 1, Haven Medjid's 2, Tyson Durfee, Tuff Cooper, Shane Hanchey. That's 4 world champions and 1 pretty impressive young roper in the top 5.
Yeah, 4 of us got gold buckles, and Haven Medjid, he's a kid that everybody kind of started watching after he won Kissimmee in April. And he's not the only kid that's coming. There's going to be about 5 other guys with him. But this kid, I don't know why, but he just reminds me of myself when I was that age, that had a lot of grit, and he never really gives up. And he ain't very big, and he's riding a pretty good horse, a real good horse. This mare has been one of the best all year from start to finish. And it's kind of cool to see him. Got to rodeo with him a little bit this summer. I was with him here at Strathmore when he made this run, and the kid's just fast, and he don't make many mistakes. He's going to be fun watching in December.
You mentioned his horsepower and what a nice horse he rides. Shane, you've worked for several years on really building your horsepower. Tell us the horses you have going right now and what horse you expect to be on at the finals.
Yeah, Amy, that's what I try to pride myself on horsepower and keeping the best horses going, because I'm not a very big guy neither. So I plan on riding Bam Bam at NFR all 10. Something crazy happens, but he's my number 1 for sure. And with me having a good winter and a pretty good summer, I was able to send him home after Salt Lake and really get him in shape and ready to go for his 4th NFR, I believe. So. I'm looking forward to riding him and bouncing back after last year's NFR. And my other 2 will be going out there will be Pam Pam, the full sister that Ren Richard won Ellensburg and won Lewiston on, and pretty much clinched a back number for him this year from riding her. And Bull, the horse of me and Clint Robinson on, I'll be taking him out there as well.
So I want to get to a couple of things that have happened, and one thing that's going to happen before we run out of time with you. You have for a long time put on a big roping school in your home state of Louisiana, and that's coming up on Sunday. This year it's in Texas. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's our 11th annual Shane Hanchey Invitational. It's I think the best roping in the United States as far as open calf roping. I moved it to Giddings this year for a few reasons. I moved to Texas, and then with me moving to Texas, I wanted to move my roping to Texas, and it kind of worked out that I had a spot close here to Carmine and Giddings. Lanham Mangold's got my calves, and he lives in Giddings. So this whole city has embraced it more than I could ever imagine. I'm on 3 radio stations in Austin and radio stations all over the area. This is going to be the best roping that I've ever had, partly because I opened it up. I used to limit it to about 50 or 55 guys. This year we've got 80 guys.
Wow.
11 of the top 15 will be there. 21 of the top 25 will be there. Just goes to show you what kind of athletes will be there at Giddings, Texas on Sunday afternoon.
Let me correct one thing, Amy, and then I'll get back to you. I think when I asked that question, I said roping school. It's not a roping school. It's a big invitational roping. How much did you pay out last year, Shane? Do you remember?
Yeah, we paid out over probably $75,000, 100% payback. Our fees are $1,250. They rope for all $1,250 of it. I've got some great sponsors that help us out. Cinch Jeans is right at the top of them, and they help me pay for cattle charge and all that. So they rope for 100%. With 83 guys, Steve, there's going to be $100,000 in the pot.
That's very exciting, and I think we should mention too that you also have breakaway roping at your invitational.
Yeah, 3 in the short for 300. I think moving it to Giddings is going to bring a lot of breakaway ropers. I've had more calls about the breakaway roping, probably calf roping, but I'm going to let them enter twice. And, I've heard from JJ Hampton and all the top girls that's breakaway summer. They'll be here, so it's going to be good watching. It's going to be a pretty good warm up for the CPRA finals next weekend, and everybody will be here. It'll be good watching.
Talking to Shane Hanchey, the 2013 world champion tie-down roper, headed to his 10th national finals rodeo. Shane, you started, how long has it been now? A year or 2 years the Cowboy Journal has been in business?
We launched in December of 2017.
I know I did an interview with you, I think on stage in Las Vegas when we first kicked it off. This year, a special honor. And folks, if you're not subscribed to thecowboyjournal.com and you're a rodeo fan, you really need to be, because some of the stories and the insights and the depth that Shane and his team are able to reach into with the people, I really want to compliment you on it, Shane. It's great. The content is fabulous. You're going to win an award this year from the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, one of the media awards.
Yeah, I got the phone call a couple days ago when I was in the practice pen. They said, we've got something we want to tell you. You might be excited about it. I didn't know what it was. The Horse of the Year voting's not for another week. And they told me that the Cowboy Journal won the Journalism of the Year award for the PRC. I almost told them there's no way, but man, I'm completely humbled to win that. And it's not just me, Steve. I've got a whole team of people. Logan Ward's our writer. Meg Scales is our chief operating officer. Matt Cohen, the photographer, he does a lot of in-house stuff too, and Thea Larson, our social media expert. I mean, it's a whole team deal. And when I told the team on Slack the other day that we won the award, it was pretty cool.
When you say Logan Ward is the primary writer, he's got an interesting situation, and I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna let you finish it. Because really, it is the contestants. It's the cowboys. It's the cowgirls. It's the people whose stories you were telling who are writing those stories, right?
Yeah, it is. So obviously, we're not all English majors and can't write probably a proper story. So what my guy does, Logan calls you and he talks to you, and Logan is so good that within the first 5-10 minutes, he can already tell your tone of voice, how you speak, what kind of language you use, and he puts that into that particular contestant's words, and they review it and they go over it, and at the end of the day, it's all from the Cowboy, 100% from their mouths, and acting as them. And I tell you what, that's probably the best thing that I did when I started thinking about launching this thing, was I wanted it as first person, because I want people to really understand what we go through, and in order for that, it just brings you closer to that particular person's stories focusing on, and it just it makes more fans out of us. And I thought that's what we needed in the rodeo world, is for people to know us better and to be able to get a hold of us and really know our feelings.
Shane, I think that's very well said, and that's what I feel like is such a cool opportunity for Steve and I in media, is to be able to tell those stories and hopefully build an even bigger fan base for all of you contestants and everyone involved in the whole rodeo industry, because I think once they get to know all of you and your stories, I just think they can't help but love it and be a bigger fan. We want to talk more about that because obviously there's an even bigger opportunity now with the PRCA Cowboy Channel agreement. We're out of time in this segment, so we'll hold you over. We're talking to world champion Shane Hanchey. He's qualified for his 10th NFR. You're watching Western Sports Roundup, and we'll be right back after this break here on Rural Radio and also the Cowboy Channel. Thanks for joining us on Western Sports Roundup. We're joined by Shane Hanchey via Skype. He's a world champion tie-down roper, and he's getting ready for his 11th annual Shane Hanchey Invitational Calf Roping and Breakaway. It happens October 6th in Giddings, Texas. Shane, we ended the last segment talking about media, and I would love to get your comments on not only the potential that rodeo has, but as we take a look at the video of you roping at your roping in previous years, I want to get your comments on the opportunity that you have to rope at Rodeo New York coming up this next year.
I'm excited for Rodeo New York. I've always been a huge sports fan, and getting to compete at Madison Square Garden is it's literally a dream come true. I'm still wanting to go watch the Knicks play, but I can settle for roping for about 100,000 in that arena.
Yeah, we know you're a huge sports fan, and we can't wait to watch you rope there. I mentioned the potential that rodeo has and the new agreement with the PRCA and the Cowboy Channel. I would love some comments from you on that and the exposure that you guys now have to be seen live and on so many different shows involving rodeo.
Yeah, Amy, that's huge for us because, like I just said, being a sports fan, I get to watch them guys on TV, 1 or 2, 3 times a week, and knowing that that's really pretty much what's held us back as rodeo athletes is TV time coverage and being able to be on shows like this and to be able to join forces with the Cowboy Channel and RFD for the NFR contract and the PRCA. When I heard that, I was ecstatic because I know that that's going to help us as contestants grow our fan base and be more household names.
Well, we are really looking forward to all of that happening in 2020. And of course, want to remind everyone again about your 11th annual Shane Hanchey Invitational, as I mentioned, October 6th in Giddings, Texas. We hope you have a great time. We look forward to seeing the results and getting all the highlights from you, and want to congratulate you on another great year, and best of luck out there in Vegas.
Thank y'all. Thanks for everything. And hopefully next week we can catch up and let you know who the big winners are.
Sounds great. Again, our thanks to Shane Hanchey, world champion tie-down roper, headed to his 10th National Finals Rodeo. We want to thank all our guests who were a part of today's Western Sports Roundup. I'm Amy Wilson, along with Steve Kenyon. You've been listening on Rural Radio, Sirius XM Channel 147, and also on the Cowboy Channel from right here in our studio in Fort Worth, Texas.